Well, we spoke about this entire scouting internship with Baltimore. You did it for a year. You announced you're coming out of retirement. Now, where did this itch of wanting to come back come from?
Like week one, when I was scouting, it's pregame and I'm on the field and I'm just looking at these guys like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? The itch was coming back like so bad. I would go to their meetings, defensive meetings, just sitting there and listen. And it had got so hard that like I couldn't go to the meetings no more.
Joining us today here on NFL Spotlight, he went from being an undrafted free agent to having played in the NFL for over a decade, just finished his first season with the Chargers. It is Tony Jefferson. Tony, thanks so much for doing this. How's everything going?
Good, bro. Good. Still recovering a little bit from the playoff loss.
Yeah.
But other than that, man, I'm blessed, highly favored, and excited to get into this off season.
Well, your season was a bit of an inspirational one, and we'll get into it because, of course, you were out of the NFL, kind of retired, doing some scouting stuff for the Ravens, turned it around, came back, played a full year with the Chargers, made the team, started some games, and you mentioned making the playoffs and playing here for Jim Harbaugh. But this is the NFL Spotlight Show. We love spotlighting people in the NFL who deserve more recognition. I said it, you've been playing now. You've been in the NFL for over a decade, and we go through their journeys and their stories. But before I go to all that for you, I want to thank you for something. And I don't know if you remember this, and you've since deleted that Twitter account, so I can't find the conversation. But when I started my Twitter page in 2013, I was just a guy who wanted to be a one-stop shop for NFL news. Didn't really know what I was doing, but slowly but surely I started growing. A couple years later, while it was all going on, you were the first quote-unquote star player to ever just private message me. And that felt like a very big deal for me. And you asked me a question of, do you have the Pro Bowl balloting and where I am right now? And for me, as somebody who was just trying to do this and figure it out, not knowing what I was doing, that was a big deal for me. And we had a whole back and forth conversation. And that gave me the confidence that I could do this as an NFL thing and grow in this industry and get to know the people who are in this game, whether it's players and coaches and executives and agents. So the little story that I don't think you know, but that private message, I think it was 2016, 2017-ish, was a big deal for me.
Hey, man, that's dope, bro. I didn't know that. I mean, I kind of remember now. That was when I was with the Cardinals. I think I messaged you because I wanted to see where I was with the Pro Bowl. But, man, that's love, though, bro. That's love.
Yep, here we are now in 2025. You're still playing, and here I am right now. This has become a full-time job, which is crazy to think about. But that message meant a lot. And, of course, after that, you went on to sign in Baltimore. We'll get to all of it over here. But I did want to relay that over to you because it did mean something, and it, of course, led us all the way here. But let me go through your entire journey and career because we've had many guests here on the show who have had tough starts in the NFL, whether it's undrafted or overlooked or underscouted or whatever it is. But your path is a little bit different because you were supposed to be drafted, but you weren't. What do you remember about your entire draft process coming out of Oklahoma, where I think you were thinking, okay, maybe day 2, maybe not, but day 3 for sure. And then all of a sudden, day 3 passes by and your name was not called at all.
Yeah, no, that time period was just kind of like, it was just so many roller coasters. I remember once I got my grade back when I was in college, I met with Coach Stoops, and the grade said I would be a second or third rounder. So me being a true junior, with that grade, I took the chance. I felt like, I just came off an All-American year. I had a pretty good resume leading up to that. So I took the chance. And, things happened. I think like 2 weeks after that I declared for the draft, there came out an article that was pretty much like killing my character, saying that I'm a bad teammate, I don't like to work hard, etc. That stuff. So that came out. And then I get to the combine, I got to answer questions to that. And then I ran a poor 40. I had a pop on my hamstring. In reality, I really shouldn't have competed in the combine because a few days before the actual combine, I like strained my hamstring. But I was like super competitive. I like wanted to go against, the guys in my class, and didn't post well. Ended up pulling my hamstring in the drill. So after that, it was kind of like up in limbo. My agent was telling me, "Hey, you didn't really help yourself with the combine, but you're still going to be drafted. Like, come on now, like your film, all that, who you are, like you're still going to be drafted. We're thinking maybe like day 2, but obviously day 3. So draft comes around. I remember like yesterday, April 27th, and the first round goes by. I remember the last safety taken was Matt Elam. He went to the Ravens, Baltimore. I believe it was like pick 32, something like that. And then, day 2 comes around. I'm sitting around, I'm waiting by my phone, and nothing's happening. No, nothing. So I hit up my agent like, all right, well, I guess tomorrow's the day. So we just sit through that last day. It's like it gets to the 6th round, and then I'm starting to get calls, but and I'm like, oh, I'm about to get drafted, but these are calls from teams like wanting me to be a priority free agent. I'm like, oh my gosh. So the 7th round comes around, and then the last phone call I got really for the draft was Rex Ryan. He called me. He was with the Jets, and he was like, I'm trying my best to get you. We're trying to figure out what we can do to make sure that we can draft you. And then I look up, and the Jets drafted a fullback, and I was like, man. And that was in the 7th round. I'm like, bro, I just got drafted. A fullback just got drafted in front of me. I'm cooked. My career's cooked. But I had an opportunity to choose, which was probably better in that situation when you're undrafted rather than 6th, 7th round. You get to choose where you want to go. So I chose Arizona. I felt like there was more opportunity for me there, and went there, and the rest was history, honestly.
Now, let me just ask you this. Did you have a draft party? Because if you did, I feel really
Oh,
bad.
no. Oh, and this is another crazy part. So like leading up to the draft, I was going to do it here in San Diego. So I'm from here. I'm from San Diego. Went to high school here. Everything. So the local news reports, everybody's contacting me like every week, like, we would love to host your draft party, blah, blah, blah. And like, thank God. I was just like, nah, I just want to be with my family. I just want to keep it real close. Thank God I did that. Cause if I would have been on camera like for 3 straight days and not getting called, I would have been, oh man.
Well, we just had Kirby Joseph on here last week, and he was talking about his draft process. He was picked 97th overall, which is like the final picks in the 3rd round. And he had family, friends, college teammates, the news floor. Everybody
Yeah.
was there, and he was bugging because he thought he's for sure a day 2 pick. And it gets
Yeah.
to the bottom of the 3rd round. He's calling his agent. His agent is sweating bullets. And then he finally gets that 313 phone call. So he did have a party. He got lucky a little bit, but these draft
He
party
got
stuff,
drafted.
he got something, but he almost went through having to wait another day. So, luckily for you, I guess didn't. You got to pick your team, and you picked a good situation with Arizona because that was, year 1 of Bruce Arians and everything. But there were some really high-profile names on that defense. I'm curious to hear from you when you walk in and you have Patrick Peterson and Calais Campbell and Tyrann Mathieu. What was that like for you, especially after you make the team after a really strong preseason?
Yeah. It was very like, I don't know, when you go in with like you're undrafted, like you kind of just like, I just wanted to be quiet and just like listen. Like I wasn't trying to be like loud or like make any sudden movements. I mean, around my rookie class, I was able to be me because we were around each other a lot. But like once I got around the vets, I was kind of just more like, hey, yo, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to make the team, bro. I don't want to make no problems with nobody. But I think that actually did help me because as I've grown and as long as I've been in the league, I start to see that like there's some rookies that come in with a little bit entitlement and kind of talk too much, and it kind of irks the nerves of like the veterans and stuff who've already been there and who are trying to set the culture. So I think that did pay me justice, and then also just like I got to learn from them. I was watching them, watch how they practice. I watched how they were a pro. So I think that situation helped me too. And I had a very seasoned veteran named Jeremiah Bell when I was there. I think he was in like year 11 or something, and I just came in, and he kind of took me under his wing and was just like teaching me the game of just like football. Because I think at Oklahoma, in college, my last year in college, it didn't really prep me for the NFL as far as schemes and understanding defense. When I had Brent Venables the first 2 years, it was actually much better. I felt like I was learning the game of football. And then my last year, I kind of took a step back with the new DC. But once I got there, he really just taught me how like simple coverages, cover two, cover four, three, just ways of like how can I become a better player, and that helped me out throughout the process.
Now, you eventually did become a full time starter here in Arizona. You spent your first 4 years there. Was there any sense of like vindication going from undrafted to a key player on a defense that made some playoff runs, was a team that had a bye in the playoffs at one point? Like, did you ever have that sense of, you know what, I made it, I did it here?
Whew, no, never, never in Arizona, never in Arizona. Bruce Arians and Co. Um, they made it very clear to me that like every year I was fighting for a spot, um, regardless of how well I had played the year before. So like in 2015, we went to NFC Championship. I started pretty much throughout the whole year. Played well as like a third safety. And so you would think going into the fourth year, once the starter gets released, that you would be the next guy up. Well, in their mind, they didn't view me as a starter. They actually signed another safety, Tyvon Branch, at the time to come in and take over for me. But that just kind of just fueled me, and I think that it changed me. Like it changed my trajectory in my career once that happened. Because I remember that off season, I just went ballistic. I went crazy in off season training. Like I had came back, they redid our body fat test and like everything, and like I had like lost the most body fat within like that summer break, and then I went on to have like a breakout year, and yeah, got a contract from it.
Yeah, let me just stick to that 2015 year before going to 2016, because that was the year you guys go 13-3, you make the championship game, and then you run into the Carolina Panthers. You were starting by then. I want to
Yeah,
ask you, what was it like playing against a prime MVP Cam Newton? Because I always say that Cam is different.
yeah, yeah. He eliminated us 2 years in a
Yeah.
row. um, we lost the year before in the wild card, and then we went back in 2015. And I mean, the 2015 game was like actually both were blowouts, but 2015 he was just like going crazy. Cam was like when you're about to play him, like during that time, it was like oh my gosh, because he was just like when he'd run, he would fall forward like he's 6'6", like 280. If it just felt like it was 280 when you get your hands on him, and like he wasn't like shying away from contact. His arm was alive. Like it was just he had it going on, and uh, you know, I had to give my respects to him and what he was able to do as a football player at that time because he was clearly one of the best and tough to game plan and go against.
Yeah. So now let me ask you about just, you finished your 4 years in Arizona. I remember there were some rumors they're trying to get a deal done. They couldn't get a deal done. You eventually become a free agent. Second contract is what every player waits for, especially when you're an undrafted guy not making much. What do you remember about that process? Teams actually wanting you. I remember there were a lot of Cleveland Browns rumors. Then the Ravens came in last second. What was that entire process like where now there are multiple teams wanting you compared to the draft where nobody wanted you?
Yeah, that's that's the crazy part because like I felt this even though my agent was telling me, and I had a new agent at this time. He's like, I just left the combine. You're going to get paid. Like you're going to get paid. But like in my head, it just took me back to draft night and draft process. Like, oh, you're going to get drafted. So leading up to March 13th, I was scared. Like I was nervous. I couldn't sleep. I'm like, what if something happens again, like the draft? Like, what if blah blah blah? And I kept telling my agent, like, are you sure? Like everything's good. They're like, he's like, bro, you're good. I promise. So it was nerve wracking. It was nice. Like I didn't even sleep. I'm just like the days leading up to free agency. I couldn't sleep. But it was cool because I got to see all the teams that wanted me and had interest in me, and it was quite a few. But obviously, some teams are like, you're going to cost too much, um, and then I had to make a really like I believe it was a big decision because I had to choose whether I wanted to take the big money or go to an organization that's known for winning and defense. So it came to a point where Cleveland was basically telling me I could write my own check, like for what I want. That's basically how they were giving it to me. They were just like, just let us know what you want. Like, we need you here. We want you here, blah, blah, blah. And throughout that process, Baltimore, I knew Baltimore was like in for me because Eric Weddle was texting me like, "Hey, I think we could be a good duo." Blah blah blah, and like obviously Eric being in San Diego, like a big San Diego guy, like that's my guy. Like, so I was like, man. So I didn't really ask anybody because I knew that like nobody else would be able to give me an answer for that. I would have to choose myself, and in the end, I chose winning organization. I chose Baltimore. It came down to those two really, Cleveland and Baltimore, and um, I would never have changed that decision that I made.
I remember there were reports out that you took less from Baltimore instead of Cleveland. That ended up being true, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Unbelievable. And that was one more story I remember about that. I don't know why this stuck in my mind. I remember there was somebody, whether it was reported or maybe you tweeted it yourself. Is it true you used Madden and put yourself in a bunch of different jerseys to see how you would look like in each team?
I did do that, but that didn't really have any like rectification on who I was going to choose. That was more like some Madden promo.
Okay, fine. I don't know why that stuck in my mind. I
Yeah,
remember it
yeah,
was somewhere, it was a swag
no,
thing or whatever.
it came out and people were like, "Bro, what are you doing? You actually?" I'm like, "Bro, come on, bro." Like,
Well, that decision to go to Baltimore obviously paid off because you quickly became a fan favorite. You played alongside Eric Weddle. That was one of the better defenses in the NFL. I think there was a point where you guys were allowing less than 19 points per game. What was it about just the entire Ravens culture? And it felt like there was this brotherhood, a friendship, a togetherness that most places just don't have. Did you feel that?
oh yeah, I felt it immediately. I felt it when I got there. I remember getting there. I brought my son with me to sign and all that, and it just right away it was just like, wow, like you just feel it. You feel the love, no judgment. It's like be who you are. You know what I mean? And like the fact that like you can be who you are, and then like people aren't judging you; they're accepting you for who you are. And that's for everybody. It just makes like coming to work a lot easier, a lot more fun. Everything's more fluent, and everybody's about winning. Everybody wants to win, and I like being around like-minded people like that. And that's why the culture is what it is. They're always going to be in it when it comes to like winning because that's how we practice. That's how not we, but that's how they practice, and that's how they move around. So I really like view that whole organization as like an extended part of my family.
Well, there obviously was a lot of success with that defense, with that team, with the players you were around. There was one bit of a, I guess, a rough point was in 2019, October 6th, when you tore your ACL versus the Steelers. What do you remember about that? Because you know the business of football. In that situation, when that happened, your contract had no more guaranteed money. Did it already cross your mind that this could be the end of my time here in Baltimore when all that happened?
Oh, I already knew. I already knew. So I'm a big. I scouted. Obviously, we'll probably talk about that later, but I'm big into like knowing. I know everybody always is like, "Hey, go ask Adam Schefter," like because I know all the ins and outs of contracts, guaranteed money. Like, actually pay attention to all that stuff. But I knew it once I got hurt. I mean, I knew basically that year I was most likely going to be traded or released at the end of the season just because we had just signed Earl and like my guarantee money was up, so I was going to want a new contract anyways. But it could have been possible that I got extension or something. But I kind of just knew like I was playing on my contract here, and I just remember just taking that step and uh, that non-contact injury happened. kind of just knew I was like, dang, this could be my last time in the Ravens uni right here. So that's what really hurt the most. Um, Outside of like the pain in my knee during that moment, it was just like, this is it. This could be it.
It's interesting to hear you talk about how you know the business of football because I know there are a lot of players who simply do not fully understand it at all. Where did that come from? We'll talk about the scouting thing in a second, but where did that whole thing come from where you love the business side, you understand the cap, the guaranteed, non-guaranteed, contracts work? Was that something you always loved before getting into the game, or is that something that came along as you were in the league?
I think it's something that I just like. I love football so much that like I'm never like not afraid to learn too much about the game and like how it works on any side. And like I always felt like I've really been scouting without even like knowing since like middle school. I remember when I was in middle school, we had just started up some Pop Warner team in this area. It was only like 3 years open. I had just moved there and I went around the school and I would pick out like the biggest guys that I seen like that could run the fastest at like PE, stuff like that. And I got them who have never played football. It was predominantly Hispanics. They had never played football, but I got them to come out and a bunch of them just stayed playing football the rest of their lives. And we ended up playing together in high school. And their first time playing was because I asked them to go try out and come sign up for our football team. And they ended up liking it. So I've been doing that for a while, just like that aspect of it. I love the process of like building a team and putting a team together. Um, so that's always just kind of been like what's on the forefront of my mind. And at the end of the day, it's just football. And I love football.
Yeah, so you missed all of 2020 with that ACL tear. You made a comeback. You were with the 49ers for one regular season game on the practice squad. You made it back to the Ravens, actually played a little bit with them. You were with the Giants for a year and then retired. You mentioned this entire scouting intern thing you did because the Ravens brought you back to be with them. You just spoke about your passion for roster building and scouting. Was it always a goal for you to be in the NFL and doing that? And how did that opportunity with the Ravens come from? Was that a Eric DeCosta conversation? Was it an Ozzie Newsome conversation? Where did it all come from?
I mean, I kind of like for a long time, even when I was with the Cardinals, I think it was like 2014 or 2015, I put out my first like mock draft. Um, and I was a young guy at this time doing this, and like I've always wanted to be a general manager. Like that's always been my end goal. And once I got to Baltimore, obviously me and Eric DeCosta, we were close. I love that dude. And we would talk. I remember one day where I practiced one of the rookies. We were talking about one of the rookies. And as we're talking, I was like, yeah, I really like him. I think he does well, blah, 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 talking about that. And then on the field, as we're talking, he gets an interception. And then,
Wow.
yeah, then Eric looks at me. He's like, you should be a scout one day. And that was I believe that was 2017 or 2018, 2017 or 2018. He said that.
Yeah.
So we had those conversations like throughout the years I was there. And then um, I hit him up once I like retired, and I was like, "Hey, I think I want to do scouting. I'm pretty sure like that's kind of where I want to go now that I'm done." And he was like, "All right, cool, come on in." So we started right away. We started off with the internship thing just to make sure that like I liked it, etc. And so yeah, I did that the whole year. I did it the whole year, whole football season year. And towards the end, they liked where I was at. They liked my reports and everything. So they gave me some colleges to do. So I got to go on the road a little bit at the end. So I got a little bit of both so early, like basically as an intern. But uh, they really believe that like I have a place in the front office whenever I feel like I'm ready. I mean, after we played against them this year against the Ravens, DeCosta came up to me. He's like, "Hey, we miss you in the building. We still got a spot for you." So I know. I mean, if I ever want to, I'd probably do that again.
The other one would be, I mean, you mentioned Eric a lot, but have you spoken to Ozzy, who, of course, made the player as a Hall of Fame? And then I think he should be a GM Hall of Famer as well. Have you spoken to him about the entire front office and doing all that?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I was scouting in Baltimore, my locker was our scout lockers. My locker was right across from him, and he worked. Now Ozzy works out crazy every day, so I go to the bathroom. I go by my locker, and Ozzy's in there, and we have our talks. He's put me on so much game on like how it transitioned for him and all that type of stuff. So I've had great talks with Ozzy. Ozzy's my guy.
Yeah, I mean, I look at him like I said. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer as a tight end. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame as a GM as well. Become the first ever person to go into the Hall of Fame in two different sections. He's a special, special human there in Baltimore and is still working there. All right, so did you enjoy that entire scouting internship, doing that as an intern, and do you see yourself continuing that eventually? I know you said you're going to go back to play this year. You want to continue, but do you see that as a path for you, or do you want to climb the front office ladder eventually, maybe become a GM in this league?
Uh, yeah, like I said, I definitely have a love for it. But I will say, I do have 4 kids right now, and the hours that
Are
is put
hard.
in for scouting, you really got to have a situation where you're like, okay, I'll see the kids like in the morning maybe, because the hours are all day. So I would have to double back on that and think about that. And then also, and it's not to like, uh, you know, excuse uh, any workload that I should have, but I do personally feel that like, I feel like I played the game so long and I like, my knowledge is like a little higher. I really don't want to start from like the bottom. Like, and that's what I was doing. I mean, I was picking up guys from the airport, and they were good about like me not going and cutting people because I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't go and
Right.
like release players, like especially like I played with some of those guys the year before, like when I was there. So like they were really good on that. They respected it. But yeah, it's just like I kind of want to be like in a more bigger role. Like if I do go back, just because like I feel like I'm there enough to be able to talk about like football operations, like on a daily basis, or like college guys stuff like that.
Well, we spoke about this entire scouting internship with Baltimore. You did it for a year. In June of 2024, you announced you're coming out of retirement and you try out for the Chargers. Now, where did this itch of wanting to come back come from?
Like week 1 when I was scouting, like when I was scouting, bro, it was our first home game because we as the scouts obviously go down to the game and
Yeah.
it's pregame and I'm on the field and I'm just looking at these guys. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Why am I not out here warming up, getting ready for week 1? And like, that's every week it got harder. And like, it got so hard because I used to go into Mike McDonald was our defensive coordinator. And when I was there, he was like our DB coach and linebacker coach. So that's my guy. But I would go to their meetings, defensive meetings, just sitting there and listen. And it had got so hard that like I couldn't go to the meetings no more. And everybody's like, "Where were you, bro? Why was you in the meeting?" I'm like, "Bro, I can't do it, bro." Like the itch was coming back like so bad, and I remember like it had got to like week 12. I hit my agent. I'm like, "Hey, I don't know, but like I'm getting an itch again." And he's like, "No, no, don't do it. Uh, you stick to the scouting. You're doing good. I've been hearing good things about you in the scouting world. Blah blah blah." But I couldn't hold it, bro.
Well, I get it, and there are many players like that who call it a career and then want to come back. So you did try out for the Chargers. You do
Yeah,
make the team, and the thing about the Chargers, it was year one of Jim Harbaugh. Obviously, Joe Ortiz. I'm sure you bumped into him in Baltimore. Now he's there with the Chargers. They were not expected to be contenders in 2024. I mean, they moved on from Keenan and Mike Williams and Austin Eckler, but this group defied the expectations. They made the playoffs. What was it about this team that made it so special? Which Jim Harbaugh, by the way, calls it the best group I've been around in my entire coaching career.
I mean, I will have to say that I did feel like the expectations were to get to the playoffs. It never was not that once I got there. Like when I got there, I had a tryout for the mini camp, which I was completely out of shape for because I barely started training like literally like a month and a half max before that mini camp. I was fat from scouting, bro. I was chubby. I was out of shape. I hadn't run. So like I try to hurry up and do all that. Shout out to them because they had to see something in me that was like, okay, he can do that. Cause like right then and there, I was not in shape. Like, and I had like pulled my hamstring that Thursday before camp. But anyways, when I got there, bro, it was just like everybody expected to win. Everybody was trying hard. Like everybody was working hard. No complaints. They just were bought in to what Jim and his staff were able to bring in. It just made work like so easy because everybody was on the same wave.
Yeah, so obviously you guys made the playoffs. It was a tough playoff loss. You've already announced you want to come back in 2025. There's a different player on the team, Khalil Mack, who's out there saying, I'm not sure, I'm considering retirement. Do you want to be back with the Chargers? Do you want to test the free agent market? What's the plan over here for you?
Uh, we've talked already. They know where I want to be. They know I want to be in LA. You know, and I'm hoping we can get that squared away. Um, but hopefully Khalil's back too. Like he's a monster. I love being teammates with K Mac. He's a goat, bro. He's definitely getting a yellow jacket, and the way he like preps and the way he like it's every day. You know what I'm saying? That kept me going. That kept me motivated. And he didn't even know, but I'd be like, yeah, my dog K Mac out here grinding, getting it right. Even though he is older than me, I didn't even know that. I thought I was older than him.
Yeah.
Like once you get this age, I think I'm like the oldest on the team. Bro. I'm like, but yeah, bro, I loved it there. I loved it in LA. They know that. It's so much love over there. So yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Khalil did say that he's considering it, but he did say that if he does come back, he wants to be back with the Chargers, just like you said. All right, this is the final question I ask every guest who comes on the show. It's the NFL Spotlight Show. We love spotlighting people in the league who deserve more recognition for what they've done. Maybe people have not noticed them that much. Tony, you could give me a player, a coach, an executive, somebody outside the box. Who do you think deserves to be in this seat here in the future?
Uh, it only has to be one
You could do two.
because I have two.
All
Okay,
right, let's
but
do two.
it may sound biased because they're on my team,
It's all
but
good.
one's a coach. Can I do that?
Go ahead, coach, executive, whoever you want. You know a
Okay.
lot of people in this league. I know you.
So the first player, and I'll make sure he gets on if you ever want to reach out to him. His name is Dayon Henley. He
Okay.
really is a Pro Bowl linebacker, second year in the league. They didn't give him his Pro Bowl recognition, but he deserves it. But his jump from year one to year two, and like what I believe he can become, he's going to be a top linebacker in this league. So I would love to have him on and getting the spotlight that he deserves. And then for coach would be my DB coach, my safeties coach, Chris O'Leary. He came over from Notre Dame. Now he's in the league. I'm older than him, but he's bro. I will say I learned this year. I will have to say like he's up there with like being one of my favorite like day to day coaches. I learned so much on like from a safety standpoint. Even though I played it however long, I was taught so much other stuff by him and like how to make plays and be in position. So spotlight needs to be on that dude because he's going to be a DC one day and then a head coach. And I want to be, you know how I helped you out in the beginning in 2013. I want to do that for him because I already know what he's going to be. So if you can get a spotlight on him at some point, that would be great. And then we could look back and be like, TJ said it. So
I would love to get both here on the show. And you definitely understood the question perfectly. Those are two guys who do not get much recognition. I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of the DB's coach. I'm going to have to do some more research there. Hindley, I've
yeah,
seen a lot of mic'd up clips here this year of
Yeah.
the Chargers, and you guys love him. He does not get talked about at all, and he's somebody who deserves it as well. But I'm going to do the research on both. I would love to get both on. We'll definitely keep in touch on it. But Tony, it was an honor to have you on. Like I told you in the beginning, you played a big role in my career, so I wanted to thank you for that as well. And thank you so much for coming here on the show, spotlighting your career, and continued success as a player. If you want to do the front office stuff, I hope you have success in that, and as well as a dad, because I know you have 4 little ones at home as well.
All right, I appreciate it, bro. Respect, bro, to you. Keep grinding, keep thriving, bro. I'm obviously gonna keep following and keeping up with you, bro. You're doing great, and much respect, bro.
Special thanks to Charger safety Tony Jefferson for joining us here this week on the show. Great interview, great discussion with a guy who has been doing it for a long time. And like I said at the very, very beginning of the interview, somebody who private messaged me way back when I started this account. I started it in 2013. People who remember the OGs, they all remember it wasn't even called Ari Meirov back then. It was just called NFL Updates. He reached out. I was like, holy cow. And that's when I knew I have a shot over here at covering the NFL. And here we are now in 2025 talking to each other here on the NFL Spotlight Show. He will become a free agent this offseason. Like he said, he wants to be back with the Chargers. We will see what happens here in the coming months with Tony Jefferson. But special thanks to him for joining us here on the show this week.